a terrible person because what I looked at as a mistake for so long was not really it was just a journey. It was just a part of the journey that I didn't know. So I'm grateful for all of your stories. I'm grateful for all of your honesty because it really does help to hear. Yes, okay, yeah, I was angry. So was other people that been through the same thing. Yes, had regrets. Yes, I felt guilt. Yes, I had rage. Yes, I felt depressed and didn't want to get out of bed for 5 days.
All right, guys, this is little sister Chris, and guess what? I have a surprise for the podcast audience, and that surprise being that it's a group recording with multiple surviving siblings. I would have never guessed I would have this opportunity to be in a room or Zoom or virtual with more than one sibling. And if I had said to my 14-year-old self, or even my 39-year-old self, that this would be occurring, I would have said, "You lying. That's not going to happen." And I'm so glad that this is able to happen, that we're able to talk to each other and share. We have so many different journeys here, whether it just happened last year or years ago. There's so many seasons and new faces, and I'm just excited. So we'll start out with introductions, and bear with us as we have these introductions. And again, we have people from all over. So I'll start with sibling Earla.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for putting us all together in one room. This is wonderful. So my name is Earla. I live in Harrison Hot Springs, British Columbia, which is just south or just east of Vancouver, British Columbia on the coast. My sister died almost 10 years ago, Leanne. We were best friends, even though she had lived out of the country at the just before she got terminally ill. But yeah, so yeah, Leanne is my sister.
So representing Leanne, I love it. Thank you, Earla. And next we have Maggie.
Hi, everybody. Maggie from Minnesota here. And little sister Chris and I have met before because we did the podcast, and Earla and I have not met any other time other than Zoom, but I feel like we're sisters from another mother kind of thing. And so my brother's name is Chris, who passed away August 22nd of 2012. So we're coming up on 11 years. So for this podcast, since there are other Chris's, I will do my best to remember to call him Bubby by his nickname so that we're not confusing everybody else. And Chris was a father and a carpenter, and just like a fantastic, loving human being. And he died by suicide. So I'm grateful to be here and share part of our stories together.
Thank you, Maggie, and representing your brother, Chris, with amongst all the Chris and Bubby. So I appreciate you for being here. All right, next we have Chris, another Chris. We have Chris Thornton.
Okay, I am Chris Thornton, as you said. I live in a little community outside of Nashville, Greenbrier, Tennessee. I am I'm retired military, and I'm originally from Montgomery, Alabama. And my twin brother, I will tell you that because his legal name was Charles, but if he was here, he would hang me because he goes by Chuck. And it's been, our birthday is 9/11, and he passed away 4 days before our birthday. And this year and next month will be 18 years.
Thank you so much, Chris, for sharing your brother Chuck. We'll call him Chuck so he don't get mad at us.
Yeah.
And the funniest thing about meeting Chris at the event that we went to a couple of months ago was she's from Montgomery. My dad is from Montgomery. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Dad is from Montgomery. And I was trying to figure out if I know some people, and I'm pretty sure my uncle does. And because he knows everybody. And yeah, so I'm glad that you're here, you found the podcast, and that you're joining tonight. Thank you. All right, and we have Beth.
Hi, everybody. I'm Beth. This is my first time on camera, period, besides work, Zooms, and events and that kind of thing. So outside of my comfort zone a little bit. I lost my little sister just past 2 years. She passed July 20th of 2021. My little sister Sharon, she's right here with my daughter. She had a long battle with cancer, brain cancer, 13 years. So we had 13 really good years I cherished. And you learn a lot in those 13 years. That's it. And I'm in the state of Connecticut, if I didn't say that already. So it's close to my bedtime.
Yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So I appreciate you for coming through before your bedtime. And I know, Beth, thank you so much, because this is a first for you to be on camera. And I know we have kind of been chasing each other. And I just wanted to make sure that you were comfortable, and it sounded like group was more comfortable for you. So that's awesome. And I appreciate you.
It is. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. And beautiful faces back there. All right, we have Chrischon.
Hi. Hi, my name is Chrischon Ellis, and I am out of Indiana by way of Detroit, Michigan. That's where I grew up. I lost my brother in 1985. I was 9 years old, and he was turning 11. He had asthma, and I know it's been a long time, but it's still hard to talk about. And it was since I was a child when it all happened, and had to go through a lot because didn't understand a lot. But it was a crazy experience, emotional. I'm sure all of us know. And after all these years, it's still like fresh. So yeah, so I'm glad to be in a community of people who have been through it, and maybe we can all help each other with little tips and little words of affirmation and things like that, so we can just take one day at a time. I will say this. It's funny because it's been decades since I lost him. His name was Thornton. He was 2 years older than me, and he was my best friend. Like, he was right there with me. So, and when he passed away, we were actually in the same house. My mom was out of town, my father was at work, and me and him were together. So I was with him when he passed. So, yeah. So that's, and if we, maybe if we elaborate a little bit more, I could tell you more about the story. So, and I'm so glad to be in this community right now. Not for the reason, but just glad that there are people out there that care and are out talking about it, because nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about it. So thank you.
So right. You're so right. This is why we are here, because we are the forgotten mourners. And we have some siblings here that were fathers and mothers, and and then you have your own parents that are grieving, and then you're kind of just right there soaking it all in and trying to figure out, am I okay? And lots of times there are times where I didn't ask myself that question. It took a long time to ask that question. So we've talked about it from a couple of people on this podcast already. So talk to me, and anybody can start. I won't call on anybody, but talk to me about how this journey has affected you so far.
Well, I guess I'll go. um, how this journey has affected me. Well, one of the things I think about when my brother passed away, my mom was out of town, as I said before, and one of the things I noticed was, and we actually talked about it last week. We got a chance to actually sit down and talk about it, both of us. My mom was in tears, and it's been well over 30 some odd years, but it's still, like I said, it's still fresh. And but one of the things I realized that happened to me was my mom ended up clinging to me. She was afraid she was going to lose me too, and that fear, I believe, had a big impact in my life. So like her fear was almost like it transferred over to me. And so I became afraid of a lot of things in my life. Afraid of speaking up, afraid of trying new things, just afraid of everything for no reason at all. And that fear carried into my adult life. And a lot of things spiraled because of that. And like a little sister Chris said, you sit back and ask yourself, am I okay? I am not okay. And you don't realize, I guess I didn't realize that it affected me that much to my adulthood that that would even affect me like that in decision making, in how I live my life, and how I raise my kids, and how I handle my husband. That fear is there. And if you don't figure out how to get it under control, it can really kind of control your life. So.
Yes. Can anybody else speak to the fear and the limits set on yourself based on your reactions or other people around you's reaction to grief?
Yeah, I think a lot of my fear is talking about her, making someone else upset. So I always get like nervous to really express myself, like to my mom, or I mean, my husband has been in my life for 23 years, so he's been around for most of her life since she passed at 35, so if I speak to her or him or my daughter, that was her second mom. When she got mad at me, she ran to TT. So the fear of really expressing yourself and really talking about it, that's something that I am starting to do with friends, family, everybody. I'm kind of just letting go with, months of therapy later. But I'm letting that go and letting it out, and I'm not holding it in. So when I do get upset, it's not as large or as big a wave, if that makes any sense.
Anybody?
I found that I became very indecisive. Leanne was my go-to person, my sounding board, my cheerleader, my editor. She was everything like that. And so, she lived far away. She lived in Spain, but we were still really close. We probably talked almost every day. Thank goodness for Skype back then. So I just became super indecisive. And so then I'm questioning myself all the time. Like, do I have a right to still be sad? Why there's some people telling me that I should cheer up. I don't feel like being cheerful. So that was really hard. And like you said, nobody really, they'll talk about it for the first while, but because nobody really gets it, that hasn't lost a sibling, or the people around me, like my brothers and my mom and my sister and my husband, we all had the same wound, the wound of her being sick for 2.5 months and then dying. So we couldn't help each other, I don't think. That's where, and then I became super lonely because I just didn't feel like I had anybody to talk to until I found a grief buddy. And then eventually peer support, like, yeah.
Well, my situation was the complete opposite. Charles and I, especially to say he was my twin, we were not as close as what you guys are saying. When we were very young, we were. And it was three of us, and when me and my older brother joined the military, then of course we were away from him. And he moved around. We graduated from high school, and him and I both moved to Michigan together. I went in the military, and he stayed there and worked for GM. And he always wanted to go to Arizona, but somehow he ended up in California. So he stayed there for a long time. And then, of course, I was down south and on the East Coast and different places. So we never, as adults, we visited each other, but we never had a lot of time together. And when we were together, we fought like cats and dogs. When we were in school, the teachers had to put in room and me and the other, we'd meet in the middle fighting. My mom back then, you had to pay for books. So mama requested us to be in the same room. So she would only have to rent one set of books. And so we stayed in the same class all the way through. Now, just because I said we didn't have, what you call a super close relationship, we still had a close relationship, if that makes sense. Because, after all, he was my brother and he's my twin. I used to call him a militant. He was kind of, it's kind of crazy, but kind of against everything, And so, but that's what made him interesting, and that's what made him him. He loved motorcycles. He loved riding motorcycles and fast cars and things like that. And there's things that I think about him a lot when I see Camaros and things like that. Diabetes is real bad in our family. My mom had it. Then my older brother got it. Then he got it. He was in California. I didn't know it. And he got really, really sick. He said he'd never come back south again. And he called me and asked me, could he come stay with me? And I should have known something was wrong. And he came, and he passed away 3 months later. The diabetes had done so much damage to his organs and stuff. And I begged him to let the doctors, do what they wanted to do. He said he didn't want dialysis and stuff. So he said he would do it for me. And I went home from the hospital that night, and he didn't make it to the next morning. So I have a real, real small family. We don't have, just mama and 3 kids. And my dad was around. My dad actually passed away 3 weeks after my twin brother. So, he was my sibling. I loved him to death. Like I say, we're at odds with each other the majority of the time. But but that's why I'm here, because it still hurts. And I guess it's because my family is so small. But one thing it did do, it drew me and my older brother closer. Now we are real, real close now.
Thank you for sharing about your brother, Chuck, and it gives good insight on, even if you have estranged relationships with your sibling, that you still are connected to them. You're still very much connected to them, and you can count on them for a good argument sometimes, really good one. And there's times where you miss that too, even though there was contention. But at the end of the day, it was all love. So thank you. Forgive the little girl screams. They should be going to bed soon. But okay, anybody else would like to share about fear or how this journey has affected you?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to bounce off of what several other people said about not only did I have kind of the fear of like holding myself back because I was more adventurous and more of the risk taker, and then I kind of thought that I shouldn't be that like express that side of myself. And then also like, so Chris was 31 when he died and I was 28, and he's my only sibling, and redefining my identity was really, really hard. And that was also part of what somebody else said, was that you question yourself, you question decision making, and it's difficult. And I can also resonate with the fact that like, I honestly, like, if I'm going to be super honest, I get kind of jealous of the siblings that say that their sibling was their best friend, because Chris and I were, Bubby and I were not best friends. We were
Yep.
siblings. Like, we were raised in the same family. We had the same parents. We could make fun of our parents, because we knew each other. But we fought too. Like,
Yep.
there were holes in the wall at one point, like, um, so I just like, I get a little envious of those, and also saying that, like, and maybe other people can resonate with the fact that like, I feel like I missed out on the opportunity of having like a really strong friendship as an adult. And I miss that, and that's a bummer. And it hurts.
Me too.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like we a lot of people are resonating with this. So that's to say that we always got along with our sibling would be lying. You said holes in the wall. My brother broke my finger. It was an accident, but he broke it. And we put some holes in the wall too. And messed up my auntie's house a lot of times, because my mother would kill us if we messed up her house so much. But my auntie, they wouldn't kill us as much. But yeah, they we definitely can relate to the growing up and arguing and fighting, physically fighting a sibling. Yes, I can definitely agree with that and can concur with the knockout dragouts. All right. So I know that we have discussed in our Facebook group about what has helped you all in this journey. So what happened, or what has helped right after your loss, and in the time after, the duration after, to where you are? What has helped you?
I was able to take time off work. I had worked a job for almost 20 years. I had 8 months of sick time. And so I started it before Leanne died so I could look after her in our house. I think it was just time. And I remember hearing a quote, it's not so much time that time passes, but it's what you do with that time. And I was at a loss. And I honestly feel like Leanne came to me after she died and she said, Earla, let your true colors show. And part of that was drawing and writing. And I think, and actually, well, even before that, it was journaling. I had a journal, and our family are letter writers. So I feel like I would write my sister and she would write me back. That was something that really helped. And also like asking for help. Leanne died around Christmas time, and I had some friends come over and take the Christmas tree decorations down. I just couldn't face that kind of thing. But I think I was really lucky that I had that time, and I didn't have any little kids at home. Our kids are growing, and my husband also, he had lost a brother when he was 18, and then when he was an adult. So I lived with somebody who knew about sibling grief. So it's weird to say I felt lucky, but I do, because he really got it. And I also I guess I learned to cut myself some slack, because I kept thinking, I've never done this before. And I kept calling it in my head, the learning times. I'm going to learn so much because I had no clue as to how I was even going to live. Like I really didn't see how I was going to survive. And so that's so I just found certain ways. And yeah, like just I think I kind of went back almost to childhood stuff, like drawing and little cartoons and stuff like that. That really helped. Yeah, yeah, doodling. Just yeah, doodling. And even and nature too really helped. Like I couldn't even go for walks at first, so I would just look out the window. That kind of got me out of my head, I guess. Yeah. And I used a lot of Kleenex. Because even when my sister was sick, she said she'd just take one look at me and she'd go, Earla, let her rip. So that was the saying, let her rip. And I would, I don't know, almost purposely watch certain clips out of movies and listen to certain songs. Like the one song from the movie Beaches, I think it's gonna rain today. Oh, I would play that over and over and over again. And I actually made myself a little slideshow of plants in the rain. But I really feel like that helped me get it out. And actually 10 years later, I'm still getting it out. So yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, I still can't. I can't listen to Beaches. I can't. Yeah. All right. Who else about what has helped them after your loss and in the duration and to where you are now?
For me, if I was making sure nobody else was jumping in. I ended up diving into work hardcore. I was very fortunate that at the time I was less than a year in, and when things started progressing and she got sicker and I was running back and forth to the hospital, we still had COVID restrictions, so there was like certain window of hours and things like that, which made it very, very difficult. But my job at the time was very good to me. They let me work like 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. to when I need to run to the hospital to make it there for the doctor's visit, then run back home, work again until 7 o'clock at night because I had to take care of things. I wanted to keep my livelihood too. And I wasn't eligible for any kind of like FMLA or anything like that to take care of her. So I was very fortunate. So when I came back to work 3 days later, 4 days later, whatever, I went back, I just dove into work and just kind of shut down all the emotions. That was really bad, really bad because then, a few months down the road, here I am, I can't even get off the floor or off the sofa for a little while. So really it was just, I finally made a decision to really just get into some therapy. I was reluctant for a little while because I didn't want to speak. I was afraid to because I was scared of what was going to come out. And that's kind of what helped me, and just pushing myself out of my comfort zone again, like getting to the movies with friends, going to dinner, doing things that are fun and actually enjoying it and not being sad because I'm enjoying it too. So that took quite a bit to do, but we're getting there. We're getting there. I'm starting to enjoy things again. Even if it does make me sad for a moment, it's okay. I allow myself that now.
Thank you for that. We're going to talk about the ugly parts, because I think I have shown on the YouTube podcast my ugly cry, and I didn't even plan on that. I had no plans. I just wanted to talk about the situation. And I remember my therapist saying, you sound like you're just narrating somebody else's life. You're not even emotionally connected to it. And so I was like working on that. And then that happened on the podcast. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's on the podcast. It's me basically Oprah crying and more. So we'll get to that. We'll get that a little bit later, and we'll talk about the ugly parts, our low parts. All right. Anyone else about what has helped them after the loss in the duration, as well as where you are now?
For me, it was music. Music and TV. I'm not gonna lie, music and TV. I love movies and I love a good series. Um, so you guys might hear my family in the background. But music is, I love to sing, and I used to sing with my brother, and we would we would stand on our piano stool and sing duets off the radio. So we had the microphones too, microphone brushes, and we would dress our clothes because you have to look good in a concert. You can't just go looking crazy. So we had our clothes and we had our microphone, and he could sing. Um, we loved, our whole family loved music. So I dove into music. I mean, singing it. Sometimes I didn't realize what I was doing, but I would just kind of withdraw from everybody and I would immerse myself in music. Because those emotions that you're afraid to show everybody else when you're by yourself, and nobody knows why you're crying, like you're sitting there watching a video or something and it reminds you of your sibling and you just crying and they looking at you like you crazy. So I withdraw because I'd be like, I was embarrassed too, because I'm like, nobody knows why I'm crying. And if I tell somebody why I'm crying, what I didn't want to hear was, that was so long ago, you should be over that by now. I'll still cry to this day because he was a major part of all of our lives. He was present. He was there. And even though he was only here for 11 years, he was a very big part of my life. So sometimes even to this day, I have to just kind of get away, listen to some music, and just immerse myself in that atmosphere, because and know that it's okay to do. Like, I don't have to answer to anybody else about my grief, about what it takes for me to get to the next level or to the next place so I can function. So I just learned how to just be where I needed to be. And that's where I needed to be at that time. And it's okay. So that helped. And the Cosby Show helped. I don't know. I know there's a stigma about Bill Cosby today. I didn't want to mention it, but back in the day, it was a really big deal. The Cosby Show was a really big deal. It made you laugh. It made you cry. It was like Black excellence at its best. So at that time, for a little girl like me growing up and losing a brother, it was something to see. So every Thursday night, I was parked right in front of the TV, and it was I was there, and I knew the whole lineup too. So, but it helped. It did. It made me feel better. Sometimes I got to forget for 30 minutes. I got to live in somebody else's world for 30 minutes, and it was okay. So that's a lot to handle when you're a kid. How does a kid handle grief? What do you do? I go outside to go play and ride my bike, and he's not gonna be able to ride with me. We used to go around the block together. Now, I got to go around the block by myself. It's just a crazy world. So that's what I did. TV and music. That's what I just got lost in that. Sometimes I still do as an adult, guys. Sometimes I'm like, everybody shut up, movie. So yeah, but it helped.
Most definitely. And I'll ask you, Chris, Thornton, I'll ask you about what helped you. But before I move, what's your favorite song, Chrischon?
Sure, I don't know.
Got a lot of them.
I got so many of them, but I will tell you this. My brother and I used to sing a song called "I Got a Right to the Tree of Life," and it was by Bill and Jay Moss. They're gospel singers. Mm-hmm. He's pretty famous now, but it was a duet that they did, and they were like from the city of Detroit, so they were really popular when we were growing up. So he would do Bill Moss's do solo, and then I would do Jay Moss because he had a more higher pitch voice. So that was one of the favorite songs that we sang together. So
Yes, thank you for sharing. I'll get with everybody else about their favorites. That has helped them through too. So don't let me forget. All right, Chris, what helped you after the loss of your brother, and then in the duration to where you are now?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know if anything helped me. It was mostly time, and just like somebody else was saying, when he passed away, I was a 5th-year teacher, and 5 years seemed like a long time to a lot of people, but not to me. I was still like the new kid on the block. So I moved from Montgomery to Nashville. Didn't know a lot about, the system of what was going on. And I immersed myself in work. I left work to go make funeral arrangements and then come back to work, and then come to find out that our system gave you 4 bereavement days. Nobody ever told me. The principal, no other teacher, nobody. And I was in there working like a Hebrew slave and trying to, not let my grief show while I was in front of the students and things like that. And so I was really hurt over that. And it bothered me for a long time. And the only thing that got me through it is just time, because I had to, I had to put on my military face to walk in there and go to work every day and deal with the students and stuff like that. And, I just couldn't break down even if I wanted to. So time is the only thing that has really been on my side, and just, just kind of kept me sane.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. And we can relate to not trying to break down while you're at work or in other spaces. All right. I know that Beth, you shared a I believe it's Sheila E. Was it or Lisa? It was Lisa. Yes. That's the artist that you and your sister share a lot of chores together. So talk to me about that.
It was just, we always argued over what we played. I like different music than her. I started liking country music as we got older, which she hated country music. She's like, ugh, why do you listen to this? So when she'd come over for Sunday dinner, we're cooking in the kitchen together. What do we put on? I don't know. That's the only thing we could ever agree on. It was always some kind of freestyle music, and it always started I like a Pandora channel that as we sat in the kitchen, would like the songs, right? So as you like the songs, it just starts repeating the things you like and leaves the ones you don't like. So we have a channel, Lisa's Cult Jam channel, that we've created together over time, being in the kitchen. So yeah, that was our thing, mostly because we argued about what was going to go in my own kitchen. We argued in my kitchen about what we're putting on the Alexa. Ooh, I just said it out loud. It's probably gonna turn off.
Right, you're about to activate mine. So yeah, I actually played Lisa after you said, yeah, that's our thing. And a couple of people had said what their music is with their sibling and played that. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm vibing with my other sibs. So that's cool. All right, Maggie, what's your favorite song or something that reminds you of your brother?
Well, the song if I picked out one single song that probably helped me the most, like after losing Chris, is called Over You by Miranda Lambert, written by Blake Shelton because his brother died. And so she performed it. And I honestly couldn't tell you how many times I've listened to that song, just like belted it out. And it just resonated with me on just like the different stages of kind of my grief. So yeah, it's definitely one of the things that helped. Other things that help that have already, I'm just kind of reiterating what people have said. Being able to write out my thoughts and my feelings, because I sometimes feel like I'm really not very good at communicating verbally, especially to like the people close to me. I don't know. I think there's like an extra vulnerability layer that's really hard sometimes to 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 be honest and like share our deepest parts of ourselves to the people that we're closest to. So writing has been helpful. Of course, being out in nature. I did a lot of hiking. I actually got paid for a job to hike after Chris died, and I think Bubby died. That was a really beneficial piece for me. Also, and people have talked about it on here, but like healthy distractions are okay, are actually, and like I thought it wasn't. Like I would like kind of berate myself for vegging out for 4+ hours on, streaming. And but then looking back on it, I recognize that like I was doing the best that I could in that moment. But in the moment, I just was really hard on myself. So I've had to learn, like that's one of the things I've had to learn to do better and like be okay with where I'm at in grieving, in being sad, and like not trying to push myself to be anywhere else, because then it's just gonna actually take longer. And also that Bobby died by suicide. So there's this stigmatized piece of it. And so doing research about suicide was actually really, really beneficial, and understanding that everybody's story is unique and different, and learning about that and understanding that helped me put some of the puzzle pieces together.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Maggie, I think we're like connected on some kind of plane, because I married a man named Chris, and my grandson, his nickname is Bubby.
Oh, I love
Oh,
that.
So like every
wow.
time you say Bubby, I'm like,
Wow.
oh my God, oh my gosh. And so I'm like, so like your brother's name was Chris and my husband's name is Chris, and then his nickname was Bubby and my grandson's name is Bubby. So every time you say it, like it makes my heart just jump, because it's like, oh my gosh, like somebody else has a nickname Bubby and she has a Chris in her family. It just, I don't know, it just did something to me. So I just, you know,
And
keep saying
so
it.
that's the other thing that we haven't brought up yet, is like if I could pick out one thing that single-handedly helped me the most, was finding this community. Was like finding these people that I didn't have to explain what the loss felt like, because you guys already recognize it, and you may feel certain different things than me. Like that's what makes all of our losses unique. But I don't have to like, I there's not a lot of bullshit to cut through with you guys, because it's us. Like we are siblings, So I would say that one thing was just so, again, healthy, right? Like I can name off some unhealthy stuff that that I've done too, but like pushing myself back towards into the healthy, like going on walks and doing those things. And yeah. And I went to a national conference where there were other bereaved siblings, and one of the siblings, his name was Chris. And like I kind of clung to him, because I'm just like, people would say his name and it helped me remind, me of my brother. And it made me sad, but it also made me happy, if that makes sense. Like it gave me comfort in some way. Yeah.
Exactly.
You'll find, you guys, you will find that there's some similarities in all of your siblings, your surviving siblings, even if it's like a minute thing. You're like, oh my gosh, you too? Yes. So that's why we are here. And I'm glad that you spoke up about that you have a Bubby and you have a Chris. And Chris is just running the game here. I mean,
Yes, he is.
oh,
Same.
yeah.
Chris.
Did I get everybody with their favorite music? Early, did you say something about your favorite music?
Well, one of the songs that I used to listen. So when I went back to work, the song "By Your Side" by Sade, like just her singing to me, saying that Leanne is by my side, whatever come what may. I'd listen. I worked 45 minutes away, so I would cry the whole way. I get to work, I'd wear my sunglasses into my office, nobody would see me, and then I'd come home. I'd listen because I made myself a playlist of all my sad, but just would bring it all out. I'd come home, and my husband would hear the car, the door, the car garage door open, but I wouldn't come in for a while, and he'd go, "Are you okay?" "Yeah." "What are you doing?" "Crying." "Okay." So yeah, music really, really meant a lot. Meant a lot. It's a lot. And I was gonna say too, it just struck me right now when that song that it was my go-to song, "By Your Side." And about a week after Leanne died, I'm in the laundry room and I have this feeling, and I'm not really a feeling kind of energy kind of person, but I felt like she was by my side in the laundry room. And I thought, why would she come into the laundry? Why would I have this feeling? And it hit me a couple of days later. My sister loved doing laundry. So that when that happened to me, it really gave me comfort. And ever since then, I feel like that's when I listen to or I watch for the signs, and the music, it just brings up remembrances of her. And I was really, really like that. Yeah.
That's an awesome song too. Awesome. Chris, Thornton, do you have a favorite music or song?
I don't have a particular song, but Chuck was a musician. He taught himself how to play the guitar. I used to come home on leave and go, and he would play in cafes and stuff. And it was certain people music he played, and he could sound just like them. He loved Jim Croce, James Taylor. He actually did Linda Ronstadt. A lot of the songs that he sung when I hear them, it reminds me of him. Actually, when James Taylor came to Nashville, I was trying to get to that concert just so I could hear the songs that Chuck used to sing all the time.
That's awesome. Music has a way of just moving us in so many different ways. And it can be a song that we typically won't even listen to, but then it just has a lyric, or even musically, it sets a tone for us. And we just keep it bottled up in like memories and things of that. My brother was very insightful as a young person. And I don't know how he knew even before he got sick. So his time of being sick was 7 months long until he died. But we found in his journals, or he would just write random, that he didn't think he was going to live very long. And I remember reading something about him loving Rod Stewart, Forever Young. And I didn't know that. And it wasn't until after he had passed and we found some of his writings that, that he had wrote something about Rod Stewart, Forever Young. And my parents ended up putting Forever Young on his headstone. So that is on his headstone, George Forever Young. And so I will go back to that song periodically just to remember and try to figure out how he thought that he was not going to be here long. I have no clue why he thought that, and he had that insight. But that was one song that as a young person, and even now, I will listen to. But I posted this in the Facebook group about being in love with Brandy Cinderella. I absolutely love that Disney, or no, not Disney, my bad. Roger and Hammerstein. I loved it. And it took me, like for you in the Cosby's, Chrischon, it took me somewhere to this day that it just, I have this moment where I'm in fantasy land, and there's a grief element in Cinderella with her losing her father and life being so different after that and how she's treated. I also identified with being treated differently because my brother was gone. And somehow this VHS at the time popped up at the house. I don't know who bought it. And I just, as soon as I saw it and the colors and the songs and the fantasy of it all, I was in love and wore that tape out. And I still wear it on YouTube. I will listen to it sing at the top of my lungs. I absolutely love it. So that's something that is a favorite of mine. So yes, Chrischon, baby, I know. I know.
It's funny how you said that your brother kind of knew that he was, I'm not sure if anybody else has had that same experience, but I get that. Because my brother used to like a song called I'm Going Away. And like when we would sing, like, my mom was into music. So she, when your mother's into music, everybody sings. That's how it works. And so she formed a little choir with our cousins and everything. And he would sing the solo to I'm Going Away. And when you mentioned, your brother, the Forever Young song, and it's like, how did they know? Like, he knew that he wasn't going to, make it. We didn't know, but he knew. And with my brother, my grandmother tells the story because when he passed away, he fainted first. We were at my grandmother's house, and he was in the kitchen when it happened. And my grandmother tells the story that he was having such a hard time breathing. He just got frustrated, and he started beating his head on the counter because he couldn't breathe. And it was just, he was angry before he passed out. But it's just like he knew that I made her make the best of this, 10 years and he was so smart. He was like unbelievably smart. I mean, he won spelling bees. He had good grades. It was like he was living an adult life as a kid because he knew something we didn't. So what you just said resonated with me. It's like they know something we don't. And looking back on it now, it's phenomenal. So I get it. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, thank you for that. Because again, in the podcast, y'all will hear me that one part where I'm ugly crying, where I'm saying that the day we found out he had cancer, he, matter of fact, looked at me and he was like, "Crystal, I'm going to die." And I was 14 and thinking to myself, like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he said, "I have acute lymphoblastic leukemia." And I'm thinking, I don't even know what that is. He said, "It's cancer and I'm going to die." And he was just looking at, I remember it like yesterday. He was looking out the window when he was talking to me, and then he looked over at me, and then he looked back out of the window. And as if, like, at that point, he was 17. So I'm talking to a person that was pretty sure that he wasn't going to make it out of it. And we all, we prayed, everything about it, and tarried, and, he went in remission really fast, and we're like, yes, we're good. And then when it came out of remission, it was very, very progressive. And cancer death is like, you have the cancer, but there's other things that happen at the same time. Chemotherapy takes so much out of you. So then you're grappling with that, and then you have low blood counts, and then you have these things where other organs have enlarged, and you can't even operate because you don't have enough platelets, and your immune system is down. So it was a lot. And I remember my dad told me that he woke up one night, my brother woke up one night again, and he said, I am tired. And my dad immediately knew what he meant. And because my dad's mom said the same thing to him. And she had always been sick. She lived till she was 70. But she said, I am tired. And it wasn't long, and she was gone. Same thing with my brother. So it was, again, something that is beyond me. And for such a young person, and you all, even if your sibling was older, if they had that sense of knowing or calmness about it, and internally we're freaking out, but they're like, you know what, at this point I'm good. So
That's what my sister was. She said when she was told that it was terminal, they couldn't do anything, not even any chemo or anything like that. It was too advanced. And she said, I'm not worried about dying. I'm worried about you two, looking at me and her daughter. So, and she had a calmness that, like, I'd be the opposite, whatever the opposite of calm, that's how I would have been. But she was super calm. And I wanted to say something about the brothers and sisters that fight like cat and dog. My sister and I, we fought like cat and dog. Like, I was always littler than her, even though she was younger than me, but she could always take me, and but we, and then as teenagers we bicker, and it was just, must have been just awful for my mom. And I said to her, how could you have stood all this fighting, this cat and dog? And she goes, you guys didn't really fight that much. She goes, you were both so different. You were so unique.
Mhm.
And I really appreciated her insight into that, because we were different people. And that's the one thing that I've learned after 10 years of being a grieving sibling, is that we all do things in a unique way, and we're all going to grieve in a unique way. We're all going to survive and thrive in a unique way. And and I think my sister helped me become more calm, because I felt like I took her lead when she would, like, yeah. So that really, I think she helped me in that regard, that I could be calm because she was calm. Yeah. Yeah.
thank
For
you.
me, it was a little different. At the end, my sister started losing like cognitive things, because it was in her spine and in more parts of her brain and her neck and things like that. So like it was very difficult, because she was talking to me and she started reverting back to like where she was a little bit more childish or not talking at all, things like that. So trying to tell somebody what the doctor is saying or what's going on, or the day we had to move her over to the hospice center, to tell her where we're going and why. I knew it wasn't really there. She didn't really understand, which I think I'm thankful for. I don't know which way to go with that. I think I'm thankful for it, because I mean, for 13 years, she knew eventually this would be terminal at some point. So I think I'm thankful that maybe her mind was able to rest at least.
Thank you for that. So that leads us into some ugly parts, and I know we've had them, and I want you guys to be able to take care of yourself. So if you need to get up, take a break. If you need to get up and get you some water, please do so. We're not judging your tears, because I can cry. But the thing about it is, when it comes to my tears, I held it in. So Chris Thornton, when you said military, I feel I've never been in the military. However, I have held some tears back. I have really held some stuff back, and it caused me chest pains. It caused panic attack. It caused weight gain. All of that stuff. And then, like you said, Beth, about working, and then hitting, I call it the brick wall. Yes, ma'am. So I'll start with you, Chris Thornton, about some very ugly parts that you care to share of grief and how you express grief.
I was angry because it was not a lot of compassion from people. And I guess, like I say, I left Montgomery and moved up to Nashville. Didn't have a lot of friends, didn't know a lot of people. A couple of people came through and, told me where to go for funeral homes and things like that, because I still didn't know a lot about the city. But the fact that, the principal and other people, and I just thought it was so strange when other teachers had death in the family and they would hurry up and run so they could get their 4 days of bereavement. The principal called me on the phone in my classroom and told me he was sorry for my loss. Never said anything else. And I was leaving and coming back and leaving and coming back. And I don't know if you know, as far as our teaching instructors are concerned, is 2 in a classroom. Well, my brother passed in September. The guy that I worked with, I want to say his mother passed away like that spring, March, April. And he had been in the system for a while. Oh, man. He ran out of there so fast and left me there with the kids. So in my mind's eye, he knew too. And I came to work every day and they never said a word to me. And my older brother and I decided to have Chuck cremated. So I didn't have a funeral or nothing like that to go to or whatever. And I guess they just, in my opinion, just capitalized on that and figured, they didn't know I cremated him. But just the fact that I was coming to work, I guess they figure, oh, well, she don't need any time. And it took me a long time to get over that. And I'm be honest with you, I don't even know if I'm over it yet after all of that time. There's a lot of things people will do in this life to disappoint you. And that was one that I had. I really wish I could have spent more time. Actually, my daughter was 14 at the time. And she went to the hospital with me every day. And the hospital actually called me on the phone and told me he had passed away. So her and I went back to the hospital. And I think she had a tough time when we walked in the room and she saw him. And she did some acting out afterward. And I think that's what it was caused by. And I feel bad as a parent because I shouldn't have let her go in the room. So, little things like that. I've had lots of disappointments. You can always look back on something and say, I should have done this. Well, that's kind of what I did.
Definitely. Anybody else want to elaborate more about their experience or some ugly parts? And we call them ugly parts because they were uncomfortable at the time. Now we know that it's part of the process. Because we love our siblings so much and want to be able to process our grief in a way that's helpful for us. And sometimes life doesn't always allow us safe spaces to grieve. But yes, anybody else would like to share their parts, their ugly parts in their grief.
I'd say I had some significant anger, even we could call it rage, for multiple reasons. One, because all of a sudden Chris was gone. And I never wanted to be an only child. We always were 4 and shared attention and shared, chores and responsibilities and that was gone. And I was so angry. Like I told my parents as we were going to the funeral home, I was like, I'm so angry. Like I want to punch my hand through the car window, knowing number 1, that I wasn't strong enough to do it. And number 2, that I would probably just break my hand or something like that. But yeah, that like, and I, if I'm being really honest, then it's probably still carries over. Like there's times where like I still use my grief as a reason to kind of not be as nice or as thoughtful as I could be sometimes. And on top of that, like there used to be, and I think I've done a pretty good job of processing it, but there used to be a lot of resentment towards basically like anybody and everybody, including myself, that ever did my brother wrong, right? Because we were siblings and I wasn't always nice. And there were times that like, I made fun of them and this and that, or, that's what siblings do. And then you reflect on it later and you're just like, whoa, yeah, I was pretty bratty. And yeah, I wasn't a nice little sister sometimes. And so there's resentment towards like myself, not, of course, not knowing what the future would hold, but there's resentment towards like other family members or friends for not supporting the way I think they should have, but also then me not having the language to ask for help. Yep.
I know, Maggie, we have talked about that and how similar we were or are to not having the words to express, as well as feeling the resentment, as well as feeling the abandonment. And I know that surprised you because our, siblings died in different ways, but I definitely felt abandoned and definitely felt like I wasn't supposed to be left as the only child. I was not. That was like, why would you do that? And like he had some sense of control over it. And it took me a while to even move past that part, that resentment. But then resentment showed up in other ways with other people and other situations later in life, other transitions in life. So that was really, really hard. So yes, we have some similarities, and I see some shaking of heads, like y'all know. Yeah. All right. Other parts.
I don't know if I had resentment, but I've like, what like a scapegoat. I think I use my brothers as scapegoats because like, on the show Friends, when one of them's going to get married and she's all in love with this person, but then she said, but I have to live with a boy. And it was sort of like, my sister's gone and I have just you two and you're no help. Like it was like Leanne and I kind of looked after mom. Mom was starting to get dementia. So, yeah, I just really had to learn that me with using them as a scapegoat and being mad and that they weren't around more. And it was just grief. It was just the grief talking. And now we have a good relationship. They probably didn't even notice that I was mad or not. Yeah, resentful. I guess I was resentful. Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, I'm sure some of us might have said, why didn't that person die instead of my sibling? Like, why is that person still walking around? I'm not saying I said that about my brothers, but it's like, there's all this questioning and yeah. So, and I just felt like I felt like I was really judged by people. People that said, oh, it's God's way. And it's just like, and I didn't feel like that at the time. Like, he's an angel. Well, let your sister be an angel. I want mine still on earth. That kind of thing. That was hard. And I think that's where the anger would come out. But I also learned I'm never going to do that to somebody else. Like, I feel like I tried to cut the people that said the mean. They didn't know they were being mean or hurtful, but I tried to learn from that. And if nothing else, when somebody's sibling is sick, or I just, tell me about your sibling, tell me a story, tell me their name. And but yeah, there's lots of ugly parts, isn't there? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And ugly parts, Beth, and after you, Beth, we'll get to Chrischon.
Ugly parts. I don't know where to begin. um, let's see. The biggest thing people used to say to me was, "You're so strong." Hated it, hated it. And I think it's because I was the caretaker. I was the one that was right there. I was the one that wasn't breaking down crying because I just didn't know how yet. So like, yeah, I'm strong, but the one thing they didn't realize, and I said this at her services, I was only strong because I needed to be there for my little sister. That's why I was strong. She was the one who made me strong. I'm not that way. They have no idea. So I was a little angry when people were like, "Oh, you're doing okay. Oh, you're still working. Oh, you did this." Yeah, because I can't function otherwise right now. So I'm just gonna keep on focusing on the work, keep on moving. Took a little while, but just slowly, like little things started making me break down. Like a cup of coffee in the morning one day. My sister used to stop in the morning, just walk into the house, just walk into the house. "You got coffee? I want coffee." We smoke cigarettes, I know, bad habit, but let's have coffee and cigarette before she was off to work and before I was doing work. And then she used to make fun of, "You work from home, you don't actually work." So like little things like that started breaking me down. But the strong thing really got me. It used to make me so angry to the point where even today I can calmly tell someone now, not angry. I can tell them I'm not strong, not, and explain why. I just don't like when people tell me that. I don't know, makes me angry.
I don't blame you for that, Beth. Not strong. I need help. Stop calling me that. Because when people tell you that you're strong all the time, if they make you feel like you don't need any help, and that's not true. Um, that's not true. I have a little regret with my brother. I think my whole family um, didn't realize how sick he was. That's the truth. I don't believe that we really knew how sick he was. Um, and this fear that I was talking about earlier, it resonated in my life. Every time I think about him, I think about a time we lived in Detroit, so the schools were rough. It's a lot of bullies, a lot of people who got issues, so there's a lot of fights. My brother, he was so cool, but we both had smart mouths. Okay, we were quick with the tongue, so we cut you with our tongue and then we run away. But this particular day, we got off the bus and there was a girl, one of the bullies on the bus, and she actually, my brother jumped off the bus and he started running. So you know how you line up the bus, I couldn't catch him or anything, but he couldn't run fast. He had asthma, so he started to run. Of course, the bully caught up with him because he runs out of breath and starts to kind of like wail on him, just kind of beat him up a little bit. And I was paralyzed with fear. I didn't want to get beat up. So I remember, and his face just keeps coming back to me because he looked over while she was kind of punching him, and he said, "Help me." And I was so freaking scared of getting beat up. I was just like, "What, you shouldn't have said what you said," or so, I just ignored it. But to this day, that is my regret. That is my regret because of not understanding how sick he was and not being brave enough to just go and punch that girl in the face. I think about it like a lot. Like you should have just pushed her over and just wailed on her for hitting your brother, because now you can't go back and he's gone now. So it's like that anger comes back and that regret and that guilt comes back, because I just feel like I should just scratched her eyes out, and I think that out, like, why would you're so weak. Why did you just, help him? You knew he was sick. And we didn't realize how sick he was because he had to go to a special school. He was not strong enough to go to regular public school anymore. So my mom and dad had to put him in special school with like kids that had cancer and leukemia, and he was right up there with them. And I think that's when I realized how sick my brother really was. Like, he had to go to a special school because he couldn't function normally like regular kids. He couldn't run, he couldn't jump, he couldn't climb, he couldn't play. And as a child, we had a chance to go and visit him at the school, and it was a relay race. And, some of the other handicapped kids, they had special things that they had to do so they could, do the relay race. And I realized my brother, he couldn't run. So he was, doing whatever he could do. Like, if he had to run a little bit, and he had to walk and sit down and rest, that was part of the game. It was a part of the whole thing. Like, because the person next to him was in the same situation. They would try to run and they'd have to wait and, and breathe. And that's what I think I realized. My brother is really sick. And that's the regret and the guilt that I carry. Dang, y'all. That's the guilt that I carry, because now I have daughters, and I feel like I'm a freaking lioness if anybody come against my kids. And so it's like that anger and that regret and that guilt comes, and I am so protective of my daughters, and they're all grown now, but I am still like a mother lioness. I'm like, if you come anywhere near my family, I will burn you, burn you at the stake. And I believe that that's from me not doing what I should have done all those years ago. So that is, and it's very hard because I feel like people would judge me for it. To this day, I feel like if I would have told the story, somebody would come back like, you suck. Why you didn't help your brother? You knew he was sick. You're a terrible person. To this day, I would feel like somebody would say that to me. But that is the guilt and that is the regret that to this day, every time we talk about him, those are two incidents that come up, that the realization that I realized how sick he really was, and the fear I had and did not move when I should have. And now I can't go back and fix it. So I try to compensate for it in other ways. Sometimes I probably get angry and like someone else was saying, the rage probably didn't come out in a good way, and you try to gauge it. But yeah, that's something.
Yeah. You released it, Sib. You released it, let us know. And then I have my own stories of regret and not knowing and not realizing how sick my brother really was. I'm pretty sure in other situations, like, we noticed some things that, we could have done or should have done. Like Chris Thornton was saying earlier, it's like things we should have done or possibly, and it does ruminate in our mind. And one thing I've had to learn for myself is at the time, I didn't know the future. I didn't know the future at all. So I have to really give myself grace and be like, we were journeying in this together, and nobody knew anything about the end result. So that's what I have to for my own self, be like, oh, Crystal, remember that time you was, like Maggie said, you was being bratty. Remember that time, he was sick and, couldn't get off the couch, and you felt the need to be bratty and not bring him food, like, because you thought he'd just get up. So there's so many ways that we all can say we could have done something better to make their life better. But definitely we were in our own, on our own life, not knowing what's going to happen either. So I'm praying that because you have released this with us siblings, that you can learn the grace that is deserved of you as a sister and as a human being who is grieving, to just, all right, sister. Yes, yes.
May I add that, like, yeah, one of the super ugly parts about our grief can be guilt, right? And Chrischon, what I'm hearing in your story is like you as an adult woman looking back on your 9-year-old self. And what I hear is like you were 9, or little sister Chris was, 14 or younger, right? I mean, so we're looking at it through our adult lens and like really harshly judging us as little people, where like our minds are like so not developed yet. And so that's what I hear in that story of just like what I hear is like, oh my goodness, I hear you being really hard on yourself. And I hear it because I've heard it in my own head so many times. It's like, you know what? Okay, maybe it serves you for a little bit and like it helps kind of get the tears out, but I don't know how long it'll serve you to be so hard on yourself about that.
Yeah, most definitely. Thank you, Sib. Thank you. I know.
That was deep. Right.
Yes, I know you guys. It is getting much, much late in the hour, and Connecticut Sib, I know you were like, it is late for you. So if you need to go, that is fine. Don't mind me if you need to check on out because you're falling asleep. But I wanted
No,
to.
I'm okay right now. I'll hang out for a little bit. I'll finish the end. I'm here already.
Okay, so I won't keep you all too much longer, but I wanted just to be able to thank you guys again for being here with us and sharing space all together. I feel like I got a little goosebumps, and I'm really, I think once I get off of this Zoom call, I probably will shed a few tears because we know what that's like to feel, even though you might have other siblings or you might have somebody around you, but we know what it's like to feel like isolated and like what just happened. Um, and I used to say, it feels like if you've ever been punched in the stomach, it feels like somebody has knocked the wind out of you. And it's like you're trying to get your breath and make sense of it all. That's what I felt like with my brother for years. Like somebody had knocked the wind out of me, and I was just for years. And then finally, after some time, was able to catch my breath. So I don't know if anybody else has ever felt that way or in a similarity or have a way of thinking about it or talking about it, but that has been my way.
My visual for other people is like it felt like a cloak, like really heavy, really dark. And no matter what I did in the early years to try to remove it, it was still there. I could not get rid of it. It was like the shadow cloak that stayed with me and stayed on me. And I can't give you like a specific example of when I started to feel lighter. But it was several years later. But I definitely appreciate the losing your breath and like losing like even like losing the wind out of your sails too. Like you just don't have the energy to care about a lot of things for a long time.
Losing your breath or almost like an elephant on my chest all the time. Like there's just something there all the time. And I know what it was. I'm like, is it indigestion from stress? I don't know what it is. Just always there. Like some kind of burden. I don't know.
Definitely.
Yeah, I was thinking like almost like depleted, like just my inners were just totally tired and depleted. And now I know it's probably because of sleep deprivation. My sister, like they came and stayed in our house, and so their room was right above ours, and I'm sure every little click, you're like, oh, she up throwing up or whatever. And so I think just very tired. And so I think, yeah, so I feel like the thing is, I think when we're in a group like this too, it's the energy, like I'm going to feel probably lifted up now because I've heard your stories and you've heard mine, and so maybe it's like I'm being inflated now instead of deflated. Yeah. And getting more energy instead of less energy. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that we have talked about a lot of good stuff when it comes to siblings, and my prayer is that there'll be other siblings that will be able to listen to this podcast, hear it, watch it, because we've heard in stories where we just didn't know if we were going to survive, or we just knew that we were in these deep, dark places or in these regretful spaces. We did not know what we were even going to look like. I had no idea. Loss of identity, loss of, who we were in our family and all of that, or our roles in the family. So who are you now?
I'm gonna say I'm still figuring that one out. I'm just starting to get back into some of the things that I used to like to do. Like I picked up kayaking for a while, and I went out kayaking to the island for the first time. Not too long ago, I went to my favorite pier in Brantford, which overlooks the hospice center where my sister was, and I was able to go there for the first time without being really upset. My good friend was having a rough day, and I just naturally drove there because it was a place I loved to go. You could park, see the ocean, see the waves, and not have to get out of your car. It's parking slots, whatever. So we were sitting there chit-chatting, and I look over at my friend, I go, oh my God, I haven't been here since she passed. And I'm like, well, I did once and I turned around left. Couldn't do it. But I was like, I haven't been here and not like broken down. I was like, I was always scared to come back here because you can see the hospice center. And I used to be at the hospice center outside looking over at my pier that I like to be at. So it just, yeah. So I'm starting to like get back to being myself and enjoying the things that I did before. And I think that's what's important right now. And I leave for Puerto Rico on Sunday, by the way. I'm so excited.
You've got to share with us. Take good pictures.
I will.
Awesome.
So doing things that I like to do again.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm looking forward to those pictures. All right.
I feel like now I'm having fun. Like honestly, I never thought I was even gonna belly laugh again or find any like why bother? My sister's not here. It's never gonna be fun. But it's almost like I reverted back to the things that I like to do as a kid. Like I like to paint and I like to make music. And yeah, the other thing too is where I'm at is I'm giving back because I did survive and I did thrive and I never thought I could I feel like I'm a little walking miracle because if I can live after my sister died, like then probably anybody can, but we can't do it alone. And we need support. We need to learn from each other. That new language, we need to learn new language, like how to talk about this and how to practice saying I have a sister but she died, that kind of thing. So I think and I feel like I'm giving back. I'm doing pottery with some siblings sometimes, like in our local the hospice, and that's been really, it's kind of fun. Like we laugh and we talk about our siblings, so so I feel like I'm in the giving back part. Yeah, life. Yeah.
I just want to say I appreciate this whole forum. I really do. I really appreciate this whole community because, like I said, we don't really talk about it, and you're brilliant for coming up with some place where I didn't feel judged after I said that story. And Maggie, what you said is honestly the perspective that you brought it from was perfect. I'm sitting here thinking like, yeah, I mean, I was 9 years old. Like, how would I supposed to know what the future holds? Like, maybe I didn't know. I didn't know. So like giving myself permission to be the best I can be, to be happy, to enjoy life, not realizing that that might have been one major thing that held me back from a lot of stuff. Um, and recognizing that I'm not a terrible person because I made one mistake, or I'm not a terrible person because what I looked at as a mistake for so long was not really just, it was just a journey. It was just a part of the journey that I didn't know. So I'm grateful for all of your stories. I'm grateful for all of your honesty because it really does help to hear. Yes, okay, yeah, I was angry. So was other people that been through the same thing. Yes, I was had regrets. Yes, I felt guilt. Yes, I had rage. Yes, I felt depressed and didn't want to get out of bed for 5 days. Yes, and it validates our feelings. It validates our worth. It validates we're just who we are. We lost somebody that was very close to us, however that looks, and it's okay. And you can be yourself. You're not strong sometimes, okay? You know, you're mad sometimes. Absolutely, it's valid. Yeah, because Chris too. Y'all would have been mad too if I didn't get my time off. How you gonna do that to me? And y'all, everybody knew, and nobody said anything. So I'm just out here, like isolated. Nobody knew, and everybody else around you is just keep going on, life going on. You go to work. Hey, good morning. No, what's so good about it? So thank you for validating and my feelings and not judging and just understanding and being a safe space to talk. So I appreciate that.
We appreciate you for being here, Sib, and sharing and feeling comfortable enough with all of us surviving Sibs as well. Because y'all, we don't touch on all our stories, but we got some stories. We have some stories. We really hit the highlights, but we have some stories that we have to process through. And again, giving the grace to yourself in those situations. Yeah, yeah. So who are you? Who are you? Who did I not get for who are you now?
Well, I'll say, going from surviving to thriving. Again, I'm 11 years in, and I can look back at it now and like, so I've achieved certain dreams and goals I didn't know I would. And that was fantastic. There's some big things, but also, uh, my partner was busy the other day and he was like, how about you grill the burgers? And then I'm like, well, tell me how to do this, this, and this. And he goes, I'll help you. He goes, but you do it your way. And it's honestly been something that's kind of silly. That's just been like in the back of my mind, probably for years of like, oh, I should kind of learn to grill. And then I did it and I didn't burn them or they weren't bad. And then I was like, okay, cool. Like it sounds really silly, but to me, it is a big thing going from surviving to thriving. There are these little things of like Beth was saying, of like being able to go back to her favorite peer and not have a complete breakdown is huge, right? Like, so it is, that's what I've learned is that thriving without Chris physically here is it is the small little things. It's the fact that like I've done a garden, or we've done a garden 3 years in a row and it keeps growing. And Bobby's not here to eat the veggies, but I still think of him when I cook them or when I pick them, or I think of where he would be on certain parts of our property, even though he's never been here. And I of course still get really sad that he is physically gone. But another part of going from surviving to thriving is knowing that nobody can take him from my heart.
I like that. I just wanted to give pause to that for everybody, that nobody and no insensitive comment, no situation can take them away from us in our heart, our spirits, our dreams, all of those things. And
Our memories.
I still dream about my brother. He came to me on my 40th birthday last year and kissed me on my hand. And we had never, first he tried to pick a fight with me in my sleep by pulling my pillow, which is, y'all, I'm telling you, he was pulling my pillow to wake me up. And I was like, what? In my sleep. And then he looked at me and he took my hand and he kissed it for my 40th birthday. So I'm just, nobody, you have really said that so eloquently, can take that away. Yeah. So I, again, appreciate you all for all the siblings that are represented here today, that we honor them. And not only do we honor them, but we honor ourselves as well as survivors, as thrivers. That's so huge, to be a thriver. And we might not be there yet or feel like we're there yet, but it's coming. The process of it all can be dark, and you have ebbs and flows. I feel cool today. Tomorrow, something might happen. I smell a smell, or somebody said something to me in the family that was like, "Oh, that was bull," and you just might feel another type way. And it does happen. But like you said, Maggie, thriving. I believe I'm there. I just turned 41 last Saturday. And it is, yes, it is a good feeling to give yourself grace and honor those feelings, no matter where you are in the process. So everybody, if you can just, give yourself a rub here for all the work that you guys have done for your families, for yourself, the therapy, the giving back, the being on this podcast, the sharing, loving on your families, and making meaning of all these things that have happened to us since we lost our sibling, and how we lost our sibling, going through the memories and sometimes the flashbacks, that you guys are surviving siblings and you're here with me. And I'm honored about that. I would have never thought, y'all, I would have never thought at 14 years old that I would be talking to more siblings that knew. They understand, and it feels good. It doesn't matter if I was a child or you're older. It doesn't matter. You guys know what that's like to love and loss. So yeah. Anybody has anything last they would like to say to the audience or to anybody?
I just say, be easy on yourself. If you have to cry it out that day, you have to cry it out. You have to be on the sofa that day. I was guilting myself for those things for a long time. So just take it easy. Like, okay, that's not today. Let's move on. That's it.
X. Earla, I saw you unmuted.
I just keep thinking of the word grace, and I never really thought about that before. And I really, like what Beth just said, cut yourself some slack, and we're doing the best that we can. We've never done this before. We've never done it before. And especially if we have, little ones, kids, or grandkids that are seeing, so we're starting, we're doing the world a great favor by letting our ripple shine, and us being able to talk here about it. And because it's going to get that much easier when we tell our story, and if we tell it again, it just gets easier. And but I do like that word grace. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. So, podcast audience, if you are listening in today, just know that we have been planning a group recording for a little while and glad that everybody was able to line up to this process. It may be a two-part process here because this podcast was a bit long, but it's a lot of good information. So I may break it down into two parts. If you would like to reach out to any one of these ladies at any time, just feel free to contact me on the podcast on YouTube and I can get in contact with them as well. If you want to see more of these group recordings, please also comment, like, subscribe, and share of the podcast on YouTube. And more stuff can come and more content can come just like this from other siblings. So we appreciate you for listening, for taking the time out, and for sharing. And I appreciate these ladies for taking the time out again for on their Friday night. We're here late for some of us, and someone from Canada who is still daylight. So we are representing all over. And again, we just are thankful. I know I'm thankful, and we'll do this again. I love you guys so much. Big hugs from me. And we will talk soon. Bye, guys.